Welcome to the Healthusiasm podcast, a panel discussion on innovations in health and self-care. My name is Christophe Jauquet. I'm a health business expert, author, and professional keynote speaker. And every week I discuss with a panel of experts the positive changes that are shaping our health and happiness. And for this discussion, we have for you the author of the books Healthusiasm and Trends in the Transformation Economy, also guest writer in numerous other books, and the writer of a newsletter that comes out every week or two. His name is Christophe Jauquet. We also have keynote speaker on the future of health and self-care, Christophe Jauquet. And on top of that, we have health business expert, the one that is inspiring and advising companies both in the healthcare industry as well as companies that have less or no affinity with healthcare, Christophe Jauquet. So as you can hear, I'm alone, unfortunately, but things happen for a reason, and I decided that the show needed to go on. So how did it come that I'm actually alone here? Well, first of all, the purpose was to have this episode with Aline Loiset, our digital health connector, our French person living in Barcelona, alongside Nia Escobar-Culle from Colombia, who's living in Berlin. But what happened at the beginning of the week, Aline told me that she couldn't make it anymore because she was pulled into a workshop that really needed to be happening with her. Not too bad. I could do it with Nia. She had a lot of Healthusiasms for this week or for this month. But then about a half an hour ago, she texted me saying that she needed to go to the hospital. What happened? She was making her breakfast, maybe even her lunch, with a Japanese kitchen knife and probably mistaking her fingers for delicious sausages. So she really needs to go to the hospital. If you get a hold of her, if you wanted to text her all the best, just realize that probably she won't be able to use her phone decently for the next couple of weeks. But Nia, take care. Hope everything works out just fine. So with this, I'm alone in this session. And instead of debating the Healthusiasms that I saw with the Healthusiasm that the other panelists saw, I'm here by myself. Because also Mozuina and Dr. Keith Grimes could not make it. So what will I do here for you this month? Because I really wanted to have these Healthusiasms out there, is I will bring you indeed my Healthusiasms the way that I always do. But to make it a little bit more interesting and to have enough content for this month, I also will present to you the ones that I was not thinking of bringing to the podcast. I always have this long list of Healthusiasms that I think were pretty interesting. And then I select about 3 or 4 that I want to present during the podcast. Now, because I'm alone, this allows me and this gives me the opportunity to also bring you the things that I would not have talked about otherwise. And because I'm alone, I will also use some of these. Maybe you might recognize or remember these sounds if you are one of the long-term listeners. Here we go. Yes, this is the Healthusiasm podcast, and we will get things started with the things that we won't be talking about. Let's go. So first of all, I want to talk about brain implants, mind-to-speech, more specifically. So there was this woman who couldn't speak anymore, mainly because she had a stroke. And the stroke damaged her neural connection between their brain and the muscles that control her ability to speak. Now, what did they do? Because basically the parts in her brain were still working, but there was no connection anymore to her, vocal cords, her lips and tongue. And so what they did is they analyzed the different elements that were activated in her brain to make her speak again. So they intercepted the communication that came from the brain to make sure that it could be translated into signals that are comprehensible words. Pretty amazing. And she's now able to speak 47 words a minute. It's fast. It's not as fast as I'm speaking right now, but it's definitely wonderful case. Obviously, this is only one person, but imagine what this could mean if many people would benefit from this innovation. Moving on, and maybe I should, let's just do this. Use this. Yeah. Going on to the next healthusiasm I wasn't supposed to talk about, and that is audible enclaves. I'm not sure if you heard it before, but it's a new type of technology that can sense sound straight to your ears. Nothing special. We have headphones, but this time it is without headphones. So imagine hearing music or a voice and no one else around you can hear it without you wearing headphones. Pretty amazing, right? So this technology can create pockets of sound, they call it, that are isolated from their surroundings and that can be targeted at one specific location, potentially picking someone out of the middle of a crowd. Obviously, it's not quite ready yet, and the range is pretty short. It's still only, 1 meter away, but imagine what it could do if we could send sound to one particular people in a crowd. And of course, within health and wellness, how could we potentially use it? Private chats in hospitals, maybe sound therapy without, bothering other people with the noise. But it's a pretty amazing new technology that is out there. Audible enclaves, or sound pockets, as they also sometimes call it. Then we move to IKEA. If you listen to the podcast, IKEA is one of the examples I often use in my books, my keynotes, also in my newsletters, and also here on the podcast. And so IKEA has rolled out a new product line, which is called Besingen. Obviously, it's again in their local Danish language. But in this case, it is something very specific. It's very Healthusiastic, actually. It is a sleek new line of home products that are designed to make life easier for folks with mobility challenges. So think about bedrooms, or maybe the essentials in a bedroom that are both functional and fashionable. So what is cool is that very often if you have these bathroom essentials for disabled people, they don't always look that cool or that nice, or they don't really have that style. So here we have the safety requirements that really are required for disabled people that meets the style of IKEA, the Nordic design style, if you will. Non-slip stools, shower chairs that really look good, let's say. It's a smart design that they put out. And I think it's really, really interesting because only in the US, and I've quickly looked into the numbers of the US, there's about 70 million adults who are living with disabilities. And so IKEA here is giving them access to really nice design that can really help them out. A very nice healthusiasm that otherwise I wouldn't have talked about in the podcast. Then let's go one step further. I saw a poll that was taken by Gallup, which is an organization that does famously global research on how the world is changing and how people think about many elements in the world. And this time around, they were looking into the number of people that are smoking cigarettes. More specifically in the US, this research was done. And what they've noticed is that the number of people that smoke cigarettes at least once a day has declined to 11%, coming from 47, 48 in the 80s. I always use this slide to showcase that in a way, the 80s was the moment where healthusiasm really started accelerating, where people became really more conscious about their health and really realize that they can do something about it themselves. And so ever since the 80s, that number has decreased. And now we're at 11%. Now, why did I decide not to bring it into the original show, the Healthusiasm podcast? Is because although it is nice, obviously you can realize that there's a lot of young adults today that have substituted e-cigarettes for tobacco. So they no longer smoke cigarettes, but they are vaping. And we also see the enormous increase of nicotine pouches around us. So, which is marketed as, if you will, some sort of safer smoking alternatives, but at the same time has some, health concerns and health risks. And these products, these nicotine pouches are not regulated. They're very popular on TikTok. So we see that there are alternatives for cigarettes that probably are taking in the spots of people smoking. So although it's a great thing to see that the number of people that smoke cigarettes have decreased, the alternatives of vaping and nicotine pouches are probably picking up that slack, or picking up the fact that people are less smoking today. Nevertheless, in a way, a decent Healthusiasm, but it wasn't decent enough to put it in the show we intended to do today. Another one I wanted to share with you is 23andMe. Now, we talked about 23andMe a couple of times on the podcast. If you're not familiar with it, it's a genetic testing company that can analyze, your ancestry, so see where you are from. But it also had some first indicators of health conditions. I think it was more particularly in breast cancer, for example. Now, the company has filed for bankruptcy, and it is seeking buyers for its assets and obviously for its extensive genetic database, because there's millions and millions of people around the world that has used 23andMe. And among the interested parties are two very, I would say, rather popular ones. The most expected ones to win this buying stream, well, they are Nucleus Genomics and Say Foundation. Now, Nucleus Genomics is simply, it's another biotech startup that is specialized in advanced DNA health testing. So by buying the extensive genetic database, they would really make some huge progresses. And Nucleus Genomics really has the ambition to understand the conditions, or potential conditions that people can develop based on the DNA. And so having that additional database would be really strong for them. The other suitor to buy the extensive genetic database by 23andMe would be Say Foundation. And it's maybe a less known organization. It's a non-for-profit organization that is mostly associated with the Say blockchain network. And so what they aim to do with the database that they would buy is that they would love to acquire 23andMe to integrate this genetic data onto the blockchain. And obviously, by doing so, they would want to return the data ownership to the users through encrypted confidential transfers. So basically, they have the ambition to give back your DNA if you actually given it to 23andMe. So if you use the genetic testing services like 23andMe, always consider reviewing your data privacy settings. Stay informed about how potential changes in company ownership could affect the handling of your genetic information, because it might be out there. I think 23andMe actually sent out a mail to everyone requesting whether or not their data should be deleted. Hopefully you've seen it. If not, make sure maybe you reach out to them. And so finally, as one of the Healthusiasms I wasn't supposed to talk about, but maybe Keith would have brought it up in one of the next episodes, it's something which has happened in the UK recently. So on March the 13th, Prime Minister Keir Starmer said that the government will get rid of the NHS England. If you're not familiar with the NHS, that's the executive body running the health services in England. And the reason why they would do it is pretty much the same as the DOGE, the Dutch initiatives in the States that is run by Elon Musk. They say that they'll cut down on bureaucracy and they want to free up the money for actual care, which seems reasonable. But of course, this does not happen, from one day to another. And that plan could probably take at least 2 years to actually, make it happen. On top of that, it might affect 10,000s of jobs. That was immediately one of the feedbacks that we saw online. Nevertheless, the Health Secretary Wes Streeting also hinted at the same moment on the 13th of March that more health bodies might be shut down after shutting down the NHS England. The day after, immediately reports came out saying that kind of restructuring could lead to the loss of about 30,000 jobs just by shutting down the NHS. March the 31st, so the end of March, Many concerns were raised because if we really are about to cut the regional NHS boards, for example, and if we would cut about 50% of all the budgets that are available in different health bodies, it would mean that there are probably some risks related to it. And probably there might be even an impact for patient care. That's at least the concern by many healthcare professionals that was expressed by the end of March. Nevertheless, early April, the 2nd of April, a major poll revealed that 6 in 10 people, so 60% of the population, are basically dissatisfied with the NHS. So we're in a situation where we have a major shakeup. The NHS, England might be, dismantled. Many people might lose their jobs. People are afraid that other bodies might follow. But perhaps there is even a good reason to do so, because people want to have better care. And at the moment, they are not really satisfied with the NHS. So I really believe this is something that we should be watching closely in the next months, because if the US is doing something similar, if the UK is doing something in the same order in healthcare, I think we might expect similar things happening in other countries in Europe and across the world. And not only in healthcare, also in defense, we will see the same thing. All the big budgets will need to be revised in the light of what perhaps we could do with more automation and less people. Something to watch out for. So these were basically the Healthusiasm I wasn't supposed to talk about. So now let's go to the Healthusiasms that I had in mind bringing to you for this show. And I want to talk about Apple as my first Healthusiasm. You might have seen it on media and even in social media. There's this Apple project called Mulberry. Mulberry. Project Mulberry. It suddenly came into the news saying that Apple might be releasing somewhere in the next year or so a new health feature, which will supposedly be a kind of virtual doctor in your pocket. So what's the problem? We know that we all have a ton of health data on our phones, on our watches, and very often most of us don't even know what to do with it. It's scattered, it's passive, it's out there, but it's not really helping us improve our health in real time. And so Project Mulberry, and this is where things get really excited, is that basically people or Apple wants to build a smart AI-powered health coach that could do, the readings of your body data, the data that comes from your iPhone and Apple Watch. It might give you personal tips on fitness, sleep, food, and mental health. It could track your meals, give nutritional advice, checks your workout form out through your iPhone's camera even, that's what is suspected. And it could provide you with a virtual doctor that explains things through clear videos made by real experts as well. And all of this should be done through conversation, an AI that feels like a human. So that's why, in the article that I found on Indian Express, for example, it was titled as the virtual AI doctor. Now, it won't be there until somewhere 2026. And knowing Apple, it might even be a little later. But it's considered, in the articles that I've read, as being Apple's biggest move into health so far. Keep an eye on the iOS 19.4, because that is supposedly the iOS update in which it might be launched. So your phone, or even the Apple's entire ecosystem, might soon be your coach to feel better, sleep better, live healthier, no extra apps needed. Now, it would have been really nice to have a discussion about this, and we have a WhatsApp channel with our other panelists that are frequently on the show where we discuss this as well. And I think the overall idea was, or belief was, that Apple probably won't go as far as to giving recommendations. Although, it's fair to say that they won't, because if you look at how the health app is organized today, it is mainly, a collection of health data that they've gathered through the different devices. but it's very hard to get some insights from it. The health app doesn't really provide you with insights. So moving from that to becoming a provider or having that virtual AI doctor is a huge step. I believe there is a certain reason why probably Apple has decided to not yet go into that space of recommendations and insights and just be that privacy player, that player that provides that privacy for your health data. So I'm curious to see whether or not they would move into providing insights now or even recommendations that is related to your health. Another reflection that was made on our WhatsApp channel was that it is mainly, if you read through the article, it seems mainly related to wellness and not very much to medical related issues yet. So calling it a virtual AI doctor it's a bit too early. By the way, in the coming week, I'll launch a new newsletter where I try to provide you with an overview of all the virtual AI doctors in the world. So both in the West and in the East, there's about 19 examples in there. So if you're interested in virtual AI doctors, just go to the website healthusiasm.com. Try to find the blog, and in the blog, you will find the article where I explain where we are right now today in the virtual AI doctor space. But Apple, in my opinion, with Project Mulberry, probably will stay in the more of health coach type of fields, if they are even going into providing advice and recommendations. Another company that really went into that space was another wearable that we talked about a lot in this podcast, and that is Aura. I know most of the podcast members have an Aura ring. And so, although already announced, and we also talked about it here on the show, apparently since the beginning of 2025, the smart ring maker now has a AI-powered personal health companion. And it's now available to all members. So it's a sort of advisor that really goes beyond passive tracking. It's an AI coach that interprets data, your data from sleep, activity, stress, readiness, all of those kind of things. And based on that data, it will offer you with personalized insights, trends, and action plans. Super cool. I think last week also, by the way, and I mean, this is a clear example. The Aura Advisor is clearly an example of health coaching. But in that field of virtual AI doctors that I was talking about with Apple just earlier, Ping and Good Doctor, Ping and Health it is called today, I believe. They are really going into that field of virtual AI doctors. They have a doctor avatar in their mobile health app who will really help you. So if you're interested in the field of virtual AI doctors, don't mind to go to healthusiasm.com, look up the blog, and find an overview of all these virtual AI doctors out there. This was my first Healthusiasm. Going from one big tech company to another, I wanted to talk about Google as well. And I'll stick with my newsletter. I think about 3 or 4 weeks ago, I evaluated in a newsletter a document that Google brought out, which is called Google's Impact on Health. So they had an extensive document. I can't remember the number of pages it was, but it was several tens of pages where they explained, I think it was about 80 or something, where they explained the immense impact that Google has had people's health. Apple, I know Tim Cook at a certain point said, our biggest contribution to humanity will be our impact on health. Well, I think Google is probably even doing it better today. And it clearly showed in that report. And I analyzed the whole report, trying to understand what the strategy that Google applied could mean for other companies, what other companies could learn from Google's strategy. Now, I wrote about this Google Health report mid-March something. And by the end of March, Google already announced a ton of other things that they would be doing in the next couple of weeks. And it really is going all in on health tech. That is really clear. And they are using AI to make big changes in how we search for health info, how we discover new medicines, and how we connect our health data. Because let's face it, health and tech, they often feel a little bit disconnected. Definitely in the healthcare industry, it is definitely the case. Outside of the healthcare industry, they feel a little bit more connected, but many tech players stay out of the healthcare elements and they stick to wellness and self-care. But the fact of the matter is that we have too much info at our disposal, that it is hard to understand, and that basically it's very difficult to use it in many ways. It's a bit all over the place, if you will. And so 2 weeks after I analyzed that Google Health report, 4 new initiatives already came out. That's how big they are into it. And one is related to faster drug discovery. Because Google built a tool that they called TxGemma, which really helps scientists to understand the molecules and the medical language. And so because of this, it's basically an LLM. So it's an AI tool that can understand molecules and that can understand medical language. And so by combining these things for the first time, TxGemma can really suggest new treatments and even act like a digital research partner, which would be super strong to have that colleague, that virtual AI colleague. It's a virtual AI doctor, but then a virtual AI scientist, if you will, that can help you to find new treatments. Funnily enough, I came across an article where they analyzed how helpful AI is in drug discovery today, and the article was not really that positive. But then again, it's a scientific study. It's taken months to actually analyze this. And in those months, AI radically increases and improves. So I don't really believe that the findings of those studies are that important. I think the speed at which AI is developing today, I really believe that in the short term, AI could be that digital research partner, that digital scientist next to you to find more new medical treatments. And I often say it is that in the next 10 years, we will see a tsunami of new treatments coming to the market. It will even be super difficult for physicians to understand all these new treatments and to implement them in their workflow and work process. It has always been a difficulty for physicians who are basically creators of habits, to adapt their habits to new treatments. Now, with these AI discoveries, you can expect that a ton of new treatments will come to the market, which makes it even more difficult. So physicians will need AI to deal with all those new treatments as well. And maybe Google can help there also. A second new innovation that I saw related to AI and health by Google was smarter health search. Now, Google search will show you better info on thousands of health topics. And what's the biggest difference? Well, first of all, their search engine has been made better. But on top of that, it will include advice from real people's experiences. Like, for example, how others may manage arthritis. And because you have both the scientific part and people's experiences, it really can make that health search that so many people online are doing way better. Way better, probably. I think 85% of the population once in their life go on Google to actually search something on health, their health or somebody else's health. I think there's about 70 million searches every other second or something that people are looking for something health related on Google. So having a better result, but also having these people's real life experiences alongside each other will really be valuable for patients. And I think it's a wonderful healthusiasm that we can have. Another innovation by Google is Health Connect, where they want to link medical records and wellness data. So in a sense, your wellness apps will be able to talk to your medical records, if you will. Sleep tracker, fitness app, doctor info, they will all start living in one place. It's something that we talked about a lot on the podcast as well. I think 2-3 months ago, we talked about how Validic is going into that same space. And there's more initiatives where we finally realized that there is so much health related information outside of the healthcare system, and that maybe now is a time to integrate it into that healthcare system as well. And then finally, one AI health related innovation that I saw by Google as well in the last 2 weeks is that the new Pixel Watch 3 will be able to detect if your heart stops pumping or if you stop breathing. And that's a nice thing. It's an emergency service. It's already FDA cleared, and it will be on the market very soon in the US. So 4 different AI health related innovations by Google. The faster drug discovery takes Gemma, smarter health searches, linking medical records with wellness data, and the emergency help that you might get from your watch. So Google is no longer that company that helps us find that health information anymore. It is helping us use it. Faster, smarter, and more personal. Health and tech are really starting to work together, and thanks to companies like Google and Apple, this is happening at an increased speed. And I really think this was a lovely Healthusiasm for sure. Then my final Healthusiasm for this episode was related to DeepSeek. You might have heard about DeepSeek a couple of weeks ago when they basically brought to market from China an AI model that was basically as smart as ChatGPT, but they did not use as much power as ChatGPT has. So it was a more condensed, if you will, AI tool, making sure that you don't need the big devices, that you don't need a lot of energy to actually find the same type of quality in answers. And so what this offers, so the fact that you don't need heavy computers or devices, the fact that you don't need a lot of energy consumption, the fact that very easily you can find answers. Well, in China, the Chinese University of Hong Kong, well, it's a bit dangerous maybe to call Hong Kong China, but you know what I mean, is that the Chinese University in Hong Kong, they wanted to work and they started working together with DeepSeek to create something entirely new, which they call the personalized AI doctor. So here we are again, a virtual AI doctor. And what is it? It's an AI-based system designed to manage blood pressure effectively. So as you know, high blood pressure is a major risk factor for heart disease and strokes. Many people, especially in rural areas, they lack the access to continuous and affordable monitoring. And the reason for that is that traditional monitoring methods, they really can be expensive or even inconvenient. And so the engineers at the Chinese University of Hong Kong started working on a wearable that integrates DeepSeek's large language model. And so here's how it addresses the problem. Because it has a low computation device, or it needs only a low computation device, it allows to provide 24/7 tracking of blood pressure or even heart rate variability, apparently. They could, through the DeepSeek model, collect a lot of data and offer accurate and continuous reading, analyze the data to deliver health assessments, maybe even dietary advice and exercise recommendations. And on top of that, again, thanks to the DeepSeek large language model, it could really act like a virtual doctor who engages in conversations with patients to provide reliable diagnostic references and treatment suggestions. And the whole thing, and this is what makes it so amazing, is that it using DeepSeek allowed it to design, using DeepSeek made it designed to run on these low computation devices, these devices that are less expensive and who are more accessible for people individuals in rural and remote areas, sometimes or often with less financial capabilities. And all of that thanks to DeepSeek. And I really think this is an interesting development because we always talk about energy and the consumption of energy when we are using AI, the fact that you need certain types of devices to really benefit from these AI tools. Well, DeepSeek has shown that you can actually deliver strong medical AI performances because even while it doesn't require any, I'm struggling here with finding my sentence, but what I'm trying to say is that because DeepSeek doesn't require these heavy devices, you can have it run on devices that require a lower computing power. And that allows it to be used more broadly on cheaper devices pretty much everywhere. It's now undergoing clinical trials. And by the end of 2025, it should be on the market. And I think that is lovely. We talked about health equity on the podcast as well. Making sure that as many people as possible have access to health services. But it's not always that easy because many innovations require expensive devices, heavy AI tools. And here with DeepSeek, you kind of solve that problem. And in that regard, I really liked this solution. It's called Dr. Pi. It's a personalized AI doctor. A lovely Healthusiasm, if you ask me. And then we come to the end of our show where I ask the panelists some unusual ones. I start the segment by saying, as per usual, I have some unusual ones. And I quiz them. I asked them whether they've heard of something. And in this case, it would have been, have you heard of aesthetic health? So I'm asking you, the listener, have you heard of aesthetic health? Could you imagine what it is? What it really is, and I'm going to tell you the answer right away, of course, is the idea that beauty, how we look, and what we find beautiful actually affects our health. It's not just about makeup or plastic surgery. It's about the connection between beauty and well-being. In general, if you want to know, the word aesthetic means the philosophy of beauty. And today it's a broad term. It covers how we feel about our appearances. The space we live in, the art that we see, and even the vibe of the world around us. Now, why is this aesthetic health so important, and why do we want to bring it up as an unusual Healthusiasm? It's because longevity is one big word, definitely in health and healthcare. And people care about not just living longer, but living well, about looking good and about feeling good. And that's exactly where aesthetic health will become even more important. And the impact between beauty and how you feel about your looks and the impact that it has on your health is very powerful. And there's science behind this. There's a doctor called Anyan Chatterjee, and she's apparently a leading brain expert at Penn University. And she's the one that is studying how beauty, like things like art, design, and even faces, affect our brain. It's called neuroaesthetics. We talked about it on the show as well. And it's proving what we've always kind of known, which is when we look better, we feel better. Or when we are surrounded by beautiful things, we actually get healthier. So looking good and feeling healthy aren't separated. They're connected. It's also what I talk about in my last book, Trends in the Transformation Economy, where I try to decipher what health and happiness really means. And I come up with these life aspirations, 24 life aspirations that people have. And the link between those life aspirations and health is really strongly. And one of those life aspirations, one of the 24 life aspirations, is actually looking good. Because indeed, in my research that I've done as well, it wasn't scientific research, it was more like social research. I also discovered this strong link between people want to be healthy to look good, and people want to look good to be healthy or to feel healthy. By the way, I think on my website, healthusiasmlab.com, I showcase some research where more and more people, when they are buying self-care products, beauty products, if you will, they do it because they want to look healthy. Research has shown that if you ask people, what does beauty mean for you? People will say, beauty means for me looking healthy. And it's always been that case, of course. It's even from the ancient times, people were occupied with their health. But now we really are starting to learn the science behind it and why it matters to link those two. Aesthetic health. I really liked that unusual healthusiasm, and I wanted to share it with you. And then as a final unusual healthusiasm here, there was this one thing which I came across and I wasn't aware of it. And I really love the word. And the word is Aufguss. I don't know if you heard about Aufguss. It's a German word. And it's a sauna experience that is making waves in Europe and even in the States. Now, what does it really do? Now, if you went to the sauna, you know that traditional sauna sessions, they're not really engaging. They don't have any sensory stimulation. And they might be, for some people, a monotonous experience. Personally, that is why I go to the sauna, because I like it specifically for that. But some people might find it too boring. And so Aufguss is sort of a solution for that. It's a dynamic ritual that revitalizes the sauna experiences. So what does it do? There's a couple of things that come into play here. Aufguss has the aromatherapy infusions. So there are these sessions when you are gathered into one sauna, and there's the sauna master that places an ice ball that is infused with essential oils onto the hot stones, which will then release an aromatic steam. It's something that happens in many saunas already today. When that happens, when that steam is released, they try to make that air circulate. They're using towels to make sure that the steam, the scented steam, is distributed in the sauna. Nothing special there as well. But on top of that, they will add some music. They will add some lighting. They will add some storytelling, and even they will do some theater or dancing to make sure that the steam is distributed across the entire sauna. And there's really some theatrical performances. And one I read about was in Italy, in the Bridalhof in Laturno, where there's this one sauna master who's even famous for this Aufguss type of sauna approach. And the guy is called Michael Niedermeyer, and he's doing it together with his wife, I think, Kasia Klein. And they do some sort of retelling of the 19th century ballet Coppelia. So it's a performance that includes costumes, props, a storyline about a toy maker creating a lifelike dancing doll, blending drama with the sauna experiences. That is Aufguss. Sometimes there are even cultural references, like in the UK, there's the National Aufguss Championship, where participants have certain contemporary themes incorporated into the performances. Like, for example, you could imagine an act where there's a portrayal of Boris Johnson having an epiphany after speaking with David Attenborough and becoming an eco-warrior. That could be like a performance that is brought during your sauna sessions. It's a bit weird if you ask me. I like that quiet, monotonous experience, but some really like the theater that is now being brought with these Aufguss sauna experience. And if you think it cannot be any weirder, there are national competitions in the UK, there are national competitions in the States where people actually perform on a platform for other sauna masters and really showcase their skill. Transforming the conventional sauna visit into an engaging, therapeutic, theatrical, and communal experiences to kind of like promote physical and mental well-being. Well, not that it wasn't already the case if you went to the sauna like that. So these were the Healthusiasm that I wanted to bring to the normal episode with Nia and Aline. I've also shared with you about 6 that I would not have talked about. So I really hope that you liked this, for once, monologue episode where I myself and my schizophrenic personality maybe is talking to you about all of these Healthusiasms. All I can say is that, yes, it is a Healthusiasm world indeed. Because as I've just shown you, there are so many positive changes that are making our world a little healthier and happier every day. But now it is time to wrap up this Healthusiasm podcast for this week. I thank you for listening. If you like this show, hit the subscribe button on your favorite podcast platform. Go to healthusiasm.com to subscribe to the newsletter or learn about our panelists. For now, I'd like to thank our panelists who did not make it, Nia and Aline. And I thank myself for doing all the efforts to still continue the show by myself. It was less fun than when I would do it with the other panelists, with whom I love to discuss that much. I end the Healthusiasm panel today, and I'm pretty sure that the other panelists would love to see you again next week for some more Healthusiasm. Ciao.